What is the craziest encounter of rich kid syndrome that you have experienced? I lived with 5 guys and I was the only one whose parents weren't millionaires, not close at all. They never cleaned. About once a month I would deep clean the house, but 2 days later there was garbage and food on the floor. I found out they all told their parents the poor kid made all the messes when one of their moms came by to scream at me. Not scathing like most of the ones on here. I grew up attending a private school in a developing country, so a lot of my classmates were in the one of the country. Whenever we'd be swimming in the school pool, one friend of ours in particular would always remark that swimming is more fun if the pool has a current or waves. To which I had no idea what he was talking about and generally thought he was just being imaginative. One day he invited me over to his house for swimming and he had a 50-foot indoor pool that generated a current waves. He wasn't lying. They are a lot more fun. A consulting manager I worked with was literally Stifler. Even looked like him. He was a Harvard grad, dad was an exec at a huge consulting firm. Smart, but incredibly ditzy and trying really hard to be normal. He walked into work one morning and asked one of his trainees if they got paid this week because he literally couldn't see the difference in his bank account. My college roommate's mom gave him fucking $1,400 for the weekend just randomly. He blew through the whole thing by Saturday, asked his mom for more money and was screaming at her because she promised $1,400 for the weekend and he spent most of what she gave him on Friday, which isn't a part of the weekend. Knew a trust fund girl whose dad gave her the money to start a company. She lost it when she went on vacation for 6 months and forgot she was supposed to pay her employees all the time. She assumed they would not get paid for 6 months and be there when she got back. I quizzed her on this for a few minutes and it was clear she had no idea what a job was. Good friend of mine. My dad bought me a house and now I can't buy a house of my own. Stamp duties here are insane to prevent rich people from driving up property prices, although I have to say that I really respect my friend very much for his desire to actually step out of his dad's shadow. Girl I went to high school with got a Mercedes for her 16th birthday. Bitched and moaned about the fact that she didn't get a Lexus, because her name was Lexi and she thought it would be so cool for Lexi to drive a Lexus with a custom license plate saying Lexi. Her parents did cave and buy her a Lexus for her 17th birthday. My college roommate threw a massive tantrum, like on the floor screaming and crying, because her parents got her a used big-ass truck for graduation. It was a 2013 truck with less than 10k miles that was fully upgraded, loaded with every possible add-on. We graduated in 2014, the car was maybe a year old. She already had a 2009 Range Rover. This happened a couple of weeks ago at the Infiniti dealership. I was in the waiting room with a very well-dressed lady for our loaner cars. She left the waiting room to look at her loaner and came back crying. She said she drives a fully loaded QX80 and they gave her a QX60 with nothing in it. I said sorry that happened and asked how long she was going to have the loaner for. She said a couple of hours. I wanted to tell her to suck it up, but instead I sat there quiet thinking how life must be easy for her to cry over a loaner car. A Saudi guy in the UK got in a crash, with light damage to one side of brand new Mercedes. He called for one of his assistants to come get him, even though the car was fully drivable. My friend rolled up on call with his tow truck and asked the guy where he wanted the Merc towed. The guy gave him the keys and said keep it, I don't want it. Girl got a 2-year-old Range Rover for her 17th. Now 20 and still doesn't have her license. Sits unused in their 4-car garage. I used to have a friend who would constantly say I love when my dad gives me money. And if I ask for a certain amount of money my parents always give me 50 extra. This girl then bought an apartment, boasting about it on Facebook and how proud she was of herself, how at 23 she was able to afford a home at such a young age all on her own. Still makes me want to faceplant into a pile of jagged rocks. A friend I met at uni flew from Auckland to London for a week to go shopping. Clothes were cheaper in London, so to him it made sense. His parents were from Singapore and had no idea just how much cheaper cars were in New Zealand. So when he said he needed 70k for a Toyota Corolla, they gave him the money and he bought a used BMW M3. When he went home for the summer he asked if I could mind the car for him, given his dad had pretty much cut him off at that point. He just said I had to pay for insurance on it and I could treat it like my own. But as a 19-yo sharing a flat and barely getting by, there was no way I could cover the cost of insurance, let alone petrol. A girl in my school was surprised by her parents in the school's parking lot with a new BMW. A freaking BMW. Everyone who is out is basically watching this go down and she starts crying. At first we are all thinking it's because she's so happy, but then she runs back into the school. Apparently they were supposed to show up earlier, I'm assuming when there would be more students to witness the surprise. I felt bad for the dad because he looked totally embarrassed and sad about it. You know, in his head he's like, I created this monster. Dad bought his college-aged daughter a house in a very nice neighborhood so that she and her friends could live rent-free while they attended university. He remodeled the entire house. In all, he probably spent close to $2 million. 2 weeks after moving in, they left a candle burning while they went to the store to get snacks for a football game. Came home and the house was on fire. A month later, it was good and new for them to move back in. My personal favorite was in college. Kid down the hall from me bought a brand new Fender Stratocaster and played with it for a day and got bored and sold it to me case and all for $20. I still have it and play it 15 years later. It's a great guitar. Not exactly rich kid syndrome, but there was this family that had 2 children who attended the elementary school that was connected to my middle school. Every day the 2 parents would leave the house and drive separately to pick up their 2 kids before returning home. I should mention at this point that they each drove a Lamborghini, one black and one orange, back to back in the pickup line to get their kids from elementary school. At first I thought they were just being showy, but then I realized that they were 2-seaters, so this was really the only way to do it. I knew someone who goes out of the country just to have a haircut. Had a kid that lived across the hall from me my freshman year of college from Honduras. During one of the icebreakers after freshman move-in, he leaned to me to ask if I knew when the maids came to make his bed clean. I guess his family was very well off in his home country and the entire semester was an eye-opener for him in actually taking care of himself. My brother and I grew up working class, but when my mom remarried we were all of a sudden in the one. One day when we were in high school, my brother's girlfriend came over to our place in tears. It turns out the family's Mercedes was in the shop and she had to use the Audi. There was this rich kid in our class who was literally disgusted by us buying used stuff, like computer parts, on eBay. Once during conversation I said I bought on eBay memory module for my PC and said to me that I should have a little dignity, and if I buy used stuff I should keep it to myself. First day as a librarian in a private school. Help a 7-year-old with the printer. He offers to tip me. I was in a theology class where we were talking about compromises. Teacher, what are some compromises your parents have made? Very rich girl, my mom wanted to go to Hawaii and my dad wanted to go to Mexico, so we went to the Bahamas instead. Going to private school makes life full of these stories, like earlier this week when I asked why this girl who I sit by was gone. Her friend then told me she's skipping this week because she wanted to go to the Bruno Mars and Pitbull concert in Hawaii or another one last year. This girl got too stressed out with school, so she went to Lithuania with her dad for a month. I have no idea how she made up all her schoolwork. I watched rich kids of Instagram on YouTube and am still recovering. Kids trying to straight up bribe bouncers and even police officers. This is less surprising when you realize they were international students from rich families where bribes are common expected. Thankfully, they learned really quick to not do that. I had 2 friends in college who were from UAE. They were brothers, and their parents were sending them to school in the US. They were actually pretty cool and down to earth, if not a good bit weird. They knew I didn't have a ton of money and couldn't afford to do the cool stuff they did, so they covered me all the time. Crazy stuff, like renting a private plane to go to a concert, black cars with drivers, expensive dinners in exclusive clubs. On the weird side, they slaughtered a goat in the bathtub to make a traditional Arabian dinner. And they wore far too much dracar. GF family is wealthy, she's working her way to it. But, she was waiting to get a chance for a promotion, and the words "I cannot believe anyone would make somebody work for almost a year to get a promotion" came out of her mouth. And I laughed. Girl at work told me she hated her dad. I asked why. She said he keeps asking for money since she used his credit card for a Euro trip and left him an 80 grand bill from last year. The ex-girlfriend's friend said to me, "Can you believe there are people who have never been on a private jet?" Yeah, I'm one of them. A 14-year-old in full volume cursing meltdown. Where the fuck is he? Because the pilot of the private helicopter that had brought him there had gone off to get a cup of coffee. The kid was done skiing for the day and found it totally unacceptable that he had to wait 10 minutes before he got flown home. When I was in college, a friend that was heavy in the frat life told me about a freshman that got kicked out for having a servant flown to town to do the hazing chores he was supposed to do. I went to college with a guy who totaled 5 Mustangs in a year. I don't think he was sober enough to remember any of them. I work in a jail. I always love when someone gets arrested and comes in screaming, "Do you know WHO my dad, mom, grandpa, uncle is? He'll buy your entire F jail." It's even better when their dad, mom, grandpa, uncle refuses to come bond them out. This one is kinda mild, I guess, but goes to show how clueless wealthy kids can be, completely unaware of the disparity between them and average income people. Anyways, he picked me up in a new 85,000 sports car one day. The newest Corvette Special Edition model fresh off the line. I said, "Holy shit dude, your car is incredible." He said he wished everyone knew he had to work a full month with his grandfather and earned it himself. A girl had me go in and buy her 6 cartons of cigarettes cause she didn't want to get out of the car cause she didn't want her nails broken. Said I could buy whatever I wanted. Easily what I made a week after taxes gone in seconds. Edit, switched packs to cartons. Sitting in a group discussion in college, and having one kid whine that his parents were so disadvantaged that they only brought home $500K a year, 20 years ago. I sat there and kept quiet, because my family only had $30K a year. I was only there because of scholarships and financial aid. The worst thing is all of the sympathy this kid got from the other people in the class. The school was so proud of their racial diversity, but 95 of the students came from families in the top 1 of income. I really want a classic Jaguar E-Type convertible, but annoyingly you can only get second-hand ones. I knew a chick in high school who threw a tantrum that the SUV her parents, new BTW, wasn't the right color. When I was in 6th grade, this kid would talk about how his computer is $10,000, yet whenever I beat him in a game he would say has having FPS lag. He would bet money that he would win then refuse to pay it because of unfair lag. One time a college dorm mate next door was stressing his dad hadn't yet given him money for the month, and $1,000 wasn't going to last him for the week. Meanwhile I am having to donate plasma to afford my next meal. Life just be like that.